Hi everyone, this is Chris from AB Smartly. I want to show you how to define interim analysis in a group sequential experiment. Group sequential, unlike a traditional fixed horizon, allows you to evaluate your experiment at several times during the runtime, right? And we call those interim analysis. Those are predefined, and I'm going to show you today how to do that correctly so you can maximize the value you would get from group sequential and make your decision faster than you would with any other alternative method. So as an experimenter, there are two things you can do this to maximize or to set up your interim analysis. You can specify the time to the first analysis, and you can specify of the frequency between the next analysis. So let's look at both of those. So first of all, the time to the first analysis basically means how much data you want to collect before we first evaluate the experiment. It's a very important one. If you run your analysis, your first analysis too fast, too early, then most likely you're not going to have enough data, and the variance in the metric is probably going to be too high to make any reliable decision. On the other hand, if you wait too long for the first analysis, then you lose the benefit of using group sequential, and you risk running your experiment longer than it needs to be, than it needs to. Sorry. Remember that the, if the impact of your change is large enough, then you could get a significant result at the first analysis. So you could already make a decision to ship or not at the first interim analysis. It's usually good practice to run your experiment for at least 7 days. So not only this helps with the variance in the metric, but this also ensures that you have a good representative sample of visitors in your experiment, which is crucial to make it good informed decisions which can then be generalized to the full population. So the recommendation here is to use at least 7 days before the first analysis. So that's the first setup here. Once you've done that, you can also specify how often you want analysis to happen after that one. This is done by specifying the minimal interval between each of those analyses. You need to find a value that works for you. If you run analysis too often, then you lose power. So the more analysis you run, the more power you lose. But if you run them not often enough, then again, you risk, you might be missing an opportunity to make an early decision. Group sequential is all about maximizing the time to decision. So it's really important to get it right. You could run analysis every day, for example, or every second day, or maybe every 7 days if you really want a representative sample. So in this case, for example, the first analysis will happen after 7 days, the second one after 14 days, 21 days, and so on until the experiment is completed. And this typically happens when the experiment reaches its maximum runtime or when it crosses one of the test boundary at one of the interim analyses. The right setup really depends on the metric you use, but also on the effect you expect to have and the maximum possible runtime of your experiment. And this is something we're going to talk about in the next video. So thank you for watching. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you next time.